Good afternoon, students. I welcome you all to this session for paper 3B, Goods and Services Tax. This is a Success at CA exam session, which is being conducted for September 2024 exams. I am CA Shafali Jain.
I am C. Swati Aggarwal.
And we both are your mentors for today's session. So in today's session, we'll take you through since you know that this session is very near to the exams. Your exams are approaching. September 2024 exams are approaching. So our main focus will be on how you are going to improve your performance in the examination. So before the exam, the first thing comes is the revision, that how you are going to revise before the exam. You all are busy in preparation right now. Many of you will be in revision stage also. But the revision which you have to do before the examination day, in fact, in taxation paper, you are getting two preparatory leaves. Paper is on 17th of September. So 15th and 16th is your leave for preparing for this examination. So how you are going to revise your syllabus for this particular paper before the examination, that will be our focus in today's session. And when you are appearing for the examination, how you are going to manage your time during that. So how you can complete your paper or finish your examination during the stipulated time period, and you get some time for revision also, so that you can go through once again, have a glance at the paper and on your answers, and you can have the best of your performance in the examination. That would be the focus. Moreover, how you can present, how you should present your answers in the best possible manner to score high in the examination. After that, Swati will take you through a very important section of this session, which is the commonly committed errors in the examination. Now, this is something which you are going to learn from others' mistakes. So there is a saying that we should learn from others' mistakes instead of committing those mistakes ourselves. And that is what we'll be focusing at the end of this session, that we will apprise you of some of the commonly committed errors by the students in the questions, which we generally come across, that yes, students generally make these mistakes in these questions. And if you know them beforehand, you can take care that you do not commit those mistakes when you are appearing for the examination. So since I told you that today's focus will be on the examination, like in the last session, the first Success at CA exam, which was held in August itself in this month. So there our focus was on the how you can enhance your chances of success, because at that time we had assumed that you were preparing for your examination, and we knew that yes, you had time to prepare. So our focus was main on focusing that how you can improve your preparation, or how you can expedite your preparation for the examination. So by now most of you would have either completed or your preparation, or you are in revision stage, or you are nearing your completion of your preparation. So our focus will be on the examination, that what are the points you need to keep in mind while appearing for the examination, so that you can enhance your score in the examination. In fact, last time we told you some memory techniques also. I think those memory techniques would have definitely helped you throughout your preparation, and now you must be in a better stage or in a better state to recollect all the provisions, recall all the provisions which you have remembered or you have done so far. So first, now Swati will take you through the pattern of the question paper, because our focus today will be only the examination question paper, revision before examination, and how you can utilize your time, how you can manage your 15 minutes reading time, which is given before the start of the examination. Main focus on how you can present your answers, computational problems and non-computational problems. So before that, we should know what is the pattern of the question paper for this paper 3B, Goods and Services Tax.
Yeah, this paper 3, taxation, it comprises of two divisions, and paper 3 taxation will be of 100 marks, and 30% of the paper will be the case scenario based multiple choice questions, and 70% will be descriptive questions. So out of 100, 30 marks will be the case scenario based multiple choice questions. And coming to the specifically to section paper number 3B, like section B, which is goods and services tax, since total 30% will be will be the multiple choice based questions. So for taxation section B, goods and services tax, 15 marks out of 50 marks, 15 marks will be the case scenario based multiple choice questions, and remaining 35 marks will be for the descriptive questions. And now you must be wondering that preparation strategy for MCQ will be different and for the descriptive questions will be different, but the answer is no. Preparation strategy, whether it is for multiple choice questions or it is for descriptive questions, it will remain the same. The only difference which lies in these two divisions is the manner of answering the paper. How you answer the paper, what is expected from you in doing examination in these answers will be different. Basically, the main difference is that for MCQs, multiple choice questions, you are not required to provide any reasoning. No reasoning is required from you. You have to write only the correct option. That is whether A, B, C, or D, whatever is the correct option. You just have to mention the correct
Reasoning
option.
is not required. That is true.
Yeah. And for descriptive questions, you have to substantiate the answers with proper answering. Even though if a question asks like whether the statement is valid or not, you just in the answer during the examination, you just need not mention only whether yes it is valid or it is not valid. You will be given full marks. You will be awarded full marks in the examination only when you substantiate your answer with proper reasoning. You have to give the reasons in both the cases, whether it is a computational question or it is an application based question. In case of computational questions, what happens is that there are number of adjustments, number of items are given in the questions, where it might be that you have to calculate the value of taxable supply or the minimum net GST payable. So for each and every item, whether you are including it or not, whatever is a treatment you are giving to that item, you have to give the reason for that. Even in some cases, when no treatment is required for a particular item, you just have to ignore it. You need not add it or to subtract it from the values given in the question, but you have to mention the reason why you are not considering that particular adjustment. So for descriptive questions, whether it is computational or it is application based, irrespective of the nature of the question, reasoning is required. It has to be substantiated with the legal reasoning.
Actually, there are specific marks for that. In stepwise marking, when we talk about stepwise marking, specific marks are allocated for each proper step. And for each step, you have to give reasoning also, because reasoning also carries certain marks. So if you don't give reasoning, only do the treatment of a particular item, then you will not score full marks. So that is why she's stressing so much on the reasoning to be given in every question. But as she already told you that in MCQs, no reasoning is required. That is where you can save time in the examination also, because you don't have to give any reason. Straight away, you can mark the correct answer.
Right. But in case of MCQs, one positive point is there that there is also no negative marking for wrong answers. So in that scenario where there is no negative marking, we personally suggest you that you please attempt all the multiple choice questions, because even if one or two answer is wrong, no marks would be deducted, but there are chances that that answer might comes true. So please attempt the full paper basically, even whether it is descriptive or it is multiple choice question. But in case of multiple choice question, we are emphasizing the reason being because it will save your time. As ma'am told you, it won't take much time of you as no reasoning is required. You just have to mention the correct option and no negative marking is there for wrong answers. And in MCQs, each MCQ will have 4 options with only one correct answer will be there. So as I told you that MCQ will comprises of 15 marks each in section A as well as in section B. And amongst these 15 marks multiple choice question segment, there will be either one or two case scenarios and one independent application based question will be there. The point to note here is that there will be no independent question as such. No independent question, no comprehension and knowledge based question will be tested in the examination. Only application analysis based provisions will be tested in the MCQ segment, where they can be, MCQ questions can be in two forms, whether it can they arise from the case scenario or there can be one independent application based multiple choice question. Now coming to the pattern of descriptive portion, descriptive questions comprises of 35 marks, where question number 1 is compulsory and the compulsory question carries the weightage of 15 marks. And then you have to attempt any 2 questions out of the remaining 3 questions, and all the other questions will be of 10 marks each. So question 1, compulsory question, no doubt carries higher weightage. It carries 15 marks, and you have a choice. You have to choose any 2 questions out of the remaining 3 questions. And we will suggest you that wherever question 1 is compulsory, you find it to be a lengthy or the tricky one, you can adopt the strategy that you attempt this question in the end, so that so that you are confident that all the remaining portion of your paper has been completed, and you can spend the remaining time whatever you have with you in the answering the compulsory question. Then points to be noted regarding multiple choice questions, that all the MCQs would be compulsory. There will be no internal choice given to you in the multiple choice questions. No choice is available and no negative marking. As I told you, one positive point, that there is no negative marking for wrong answers. Then no reasoning is required. And all the MCQs will be application based multiple choice questions, except one mark question. Even in, I think, 1 mark question will be the application based only.
All MCQs will be application
It
based.
is just ki one MCQ will carry the weightage of 1 marks, will carry 1 marks, but all the MCQ will be application based only.
Yeah, this is in contradiction with the earlier scheme where we used to have the knowledge and comprehension based questions. But now all the MCQs will be application based. There will be no straight question where you have to just answer it without applying the provision. So every MCQ will require the application of the relevant provision now.
We have given the link for you for the previous question paper. You can refer the same. The same has been, previous question paper has been hosted on the ICAI website at the BoS knowledge portal, previous question papers. You can refer the same just to have a brief idea of how the paper looks like, how, whether whatever we are telling you that matches with the question paper criteria or not. You can just go through it so that you have just you can get accustomed to the question paper basically.
Though only one attempt question paper is there, because under the new scheme only one attempt has so far been conducted, that is May 24 examination, but at least you will get an idea that whatever we have told, first compulsory question carrying 15 marks, and there will be 3 optional questions out of which you have to attempt any 2. So you can go through, in fact, you can also attempt it as a mock test paper. Like you will be giving mock test papers. This is the best time to appear for the mock test papers. If you have completed your preparation for the examination, then at this point of time, you should be appearing for the mock test papers. We have conducted 2 series of mock test papers for September examination. And those of you who have just completed their preparation, they can go for those mock test paper under the exam-like conditions. So sit at a stretch for 3 hours and then attempt the paper. After that, you match the answers with the suggested answers which are provided at the portal, and then assess your preparation for the examination. So you can go through the past attempt paper, that is May 24 examination also, and there you can see whether your preparation is up to the mark or not. So that paper also will be almost relevant, because although you have to take care of the amendments which have taken place after that examination, which are relevant for your paper, that is, that cutoff date is 29th February 2024. So you can see the question paper available at the link which is provided here.
Yeah, the question paper available, basically it contains a descriptive question only. Division B will be there in the question paper.
Yeah. So now we come to the revision strategy. Now that is very important, because as I told you, whatever you have done during this preparation time, if you do not get the time to revise it before the examination, it is as good as you have not done it in the first place. So whatever you are preparing, prepare the strategy that you have to revise it within the stipulated time period of 2 days. In fact, this is a final, or you can say this is a positive point here, that you are getting a better, larger time limit. You're getting 2 days preparatory leaves for this paper. So you have 2 parts, in the income tax and goods and services tax. You can spend 1 day each for both the sections. And
Anshika is saying no audio. We hope that
Anshika is not getting the audio. So other students can tell us whether they are also not receiving any audio, so we can call our technical person to resolve the glitch. Are others able to get the audio?
You can mention in the chat message that whether we are audible or not.
Okay.
Okay, I think Anshika, there's a problem at your end.
Yes, it is audible?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So, Anshika, there would be some problem at your end. You may check your internet connection also. Maybe you don't have the right connection. So, revision strategy, as it says, the more you revise, the more you remember. The more you remember, the more you know. And the more you know, the smarter you grow. So, revision is the key. As we already discussed, whatever you are doing, whatever you are preparing at this point of time, you have to make sure that you revise it day before examination. Our focus will be on how you are going to revise before the examination. Though 1 or 2 rounds of revision you will be doing at this point of time also, but whatever you are revising at this point of time, now you are going to revise it before the examination, and that makes you prepared for the examination day. So day before examination, how you are going to revise the concepts, the foremost important thing. Every chapter has, and in the study material, at the end of every chapter, there is a section called Let Us Recapitulate, which is given. And you have to revise the concepts given in the chapter through the Let Us Recapitulate section. In fact, in the previous BoS, the Success at CA exam session, we stressed upon making the Let Us Recapitulate section a complete revision material for your examination. And that how you could have done it, you would have taken the other points which you feel that you would be revising before the examination, or you need to revise, you need to refer before the examination. You can mention those points in the Let Us Recapitulate section itself. You can add those points there. Circulars, some circulars which are not, if not given in the Let Us Recapitulate section, you can incorporate them. Some other content you feel that no, I need this explanation also to be incorporated. So after incorporating all the other parts, all the other portions which you want to incorporate in Let Us Recapitulate section, this becomes your complete revision material before the examination for the concepts and the statutory provisions. Okay. So first of all, go through the Let Us Recapitulate section. All the provisions, circulars, notifications, everything is important. Though you need not remember the section numbers, circulars, notification numbers. That is not a mandatory thing that you should remember the sections or notification circulars, though it gives an edge to your answer. But we generally recommend the students that they should focus more on the provisions. They should be more clear with the concepts, and they should know how to apply them in the in the examination. And it is not necessary that they should reproduce these questions as verbatim. You can reproduce them in your own words. Only thing is that the same meaning should be conveyed. While reproducing it in our own words, sometimes it so happens that we deviate from the actual original meaning or original concept, and then we expect the full marks to be allocated, which is not the case. So, how you can revise the concepts from the Let Us Recapitulate section? Now, when revising the concepts, how you need to proceed. Now, generally, a question comes to us very frequently that what are the important topics in the
important chapters,
important
which
chapters
chapter
in
to
the
read
paper.
and which chapter we can avoid.
And definitely, students are which chapter we can leave. So, as regards that, we will say no chapter you can. There is no such chapter which we can say that you should leave for the examination. Each chapter has its own weightage, and they are we will say very important for the examination. Though we have given section-wise weightage to you, so that you can prioritize your studies. So when revising also, you should keep that weightage into mind, and that tells you that you have to start from the substantive provisions. Now, what are the substantive provisions? Substantive provisions are the core provisions of the GST on which the entire law is based, and they are supply, charge of GST, then time, value, exemptions under GST, place of supply, and input tax credit. So basically, first 8 chapters, they are the substantive provisions. They are the core provisions of GST. So while revising also, we have to prioritize that. First of all, we should revise the substantive provisions, and then we should progress towards the procedural laws, that is registration, tax invoice, then payment, returns, e-way bill, accounts and records, TDS, TCS. You know that this time from May 2024 onwards, the place of supply provisions, TDS, TCS, and accounts and records, these 3 topics have been added in the syllabus. So students who have also appeared for the earlier examination, they need to know that yes, these 3 topics additionally they have to study. And what is the sequence of revision is, first of all, the substantive provisions have to be revised, and then you need to move to the procedural laws. Now, as regards the computational problems, now whatever computational problems are given in test your knowledge section, or if additional reference books you are referring, there also you might have got some good computational problems. So for that, as we have discussed in the previous session also, that what you should do is, while doing these computational problems, you should solve them on your own. then you should locate the areas where you find some problem or some tricky issues which were there in the question. And those tricky points you should mark or highlight in your book itself. So that day before examination, all these tricky points, you should just give a glance. So that if it comes in the examination, you can attempt them with full confidence and you know that how you're going to treat them in the examination. So prepare a list of all those tricky points which you have come across in the computational questions. This is how you had to do the computational questions in the first place. So I hope those who have watched the previous session, they would be following this technique, and by now they would have been ready with a list of tricky issues which are there in the computational problems, which they came across in the computational problems, and they are going to revise it before the examination day. And even though you have not, those who have not yet done it, they can do it right now. They should see all the computational problems, whatever tricky, whatever difficult questions they find in those test your knowledge section or any computational problem. They find, yes, it has some tricky issue, it has some difficult point which I should revise before the examination. Prepare a list of that and revise it before the examination day. Then give special, and you want to add something to it, Swati?
Just like, for instance, coming to the tricky issues in computation problem, generally what we find is computation problems in the examination is asked on the computational net GST payable, or how much ITC is available, or the taxable value of supply. So what can be the tricky issues? Let me give you some instances, like price linked subsidy. Right. So, like, there are few items which are to be added in while calculating value of supply in section 15. So, few things you might remember and you don't have any doubt, like municipal taxes and incidental expenses.
They are very frequently occurring items, so everybody knows their treatment.
Right. So, wherever tricky, like price linked subsidy, and coming to the reverse charge notification. So, in reverse charge, it's not that each and every entry is difficult or not, but some of the particular services, supply of services may be a bit tricky and maybe a bit difficult to memorize, like sponsorship service. So you just can mark these specific entries, and like input tax credit, where section 617(5) talks about the block credits. So in that case, there are the number of passengers. So what is the limit of number of passengers in case of supply? So these are just few points which, in while it might happen in that in the examination hall we feel that whether it is 8 passengers and that is including driver or not, 8 or 7. So these things you just, I will ask you to jot down on a particular paper and you just memorize them, because these I expect that during examination you must be recalling that this block credit, there are supply of if any car is there, then something is blocked in that case, and there are three exceptions. But what happens during that scenario is that we just tend to forget the exact limit, like number of passengers. And if you come to the definition of in motor vehicle, then how many up to 25 cc is there, or not exceeding 25 is there, or less than 25 is there. So these are just minute points. These so I will
all the time limits,
all the
due dates that you should keep somewhere handy. Some ready reckoner kind of a thing should be there. So these sometimes tricky issues can be there. You find in some question that generally you treat a particular item in this way, but if the language of the question changes, then how you have to attempt that particular question. If blanket subsidy is there, then how you are going to treat it. So what would be the language that is given to you, and in that case you have to treat it in this particular manner. You don't have to include it in the value of supply. So that can be the tricky issue. She has given you the actual idea that how you can identify those tricky issues, or how you can identify, because whatever you are not able to attempt in the first place, that is a tricky issue. Anshika is still not able to hear anything, but if I think other students, Anshika, are able to, I think audio is clear to other students, and everybody has affirmed that yes, they are able to hear. So please check the audio at your end. Now, how to manage time in the examination? Now, this is also very important because we have prepared fully for the examination. We have revised everything. Now, what comes as those 3 hours and plus 15 minutes reading time, which we have got on the examination day. That there we have to give our best, because if we are not able to perform our best in those 3 hours and that reading time, if we are not able to utilize it in the proper manner, then it might not, we might not able to score as per our expectations. So it is very important that we should keep a strategy in our mind that how we are going to proceed in the examination. We all know that we get a 15 minutes reading time in the examination. and in how you can best utilize that reading time. So what you should do is you should give a quick glance to all the descriptive questions, because there you have a choice. You know that one question is compulsory, but apart from that, the other questions you have a choice, both in income tax portion as well as in GST portion. So you should first of all see those optional questions which you have to see, which you have to attempt, and mark the questions which you have to attempt out of the three questions. In each, in GST as well as in income tax, out of three questions you have to attempt any two. So first of all, you have to exclude or eliminate the question which you are not going to attempt. That would be the question which you know the least. Maybe you don't know its subparts. So you have to exclude that question. Then you have to identify, yes, these are the two optional questions I'm going to attempt. After that, what you need to do is that you need to find out that descriptive question from which you are going to start your examination. That means the first question which you are going to answer. In each of these sections, section A as well as section B, the question should be that question which you are most confident about, because from that question you need to start your examination. It creates a very positive impression on your examiner, because your answer sheet is the only medium of communicating with the examiner, and there you have to create the entire impression. So start with the answer which you know the best. All subparts are known to you. Answer that question properly, though you should not exceed the time limit which you have allocated for that particular answer too much, but you should start answering from that question which you know the best. After that, so now that comes when you get the question paper, you get the answer sheet. But when you are in your reading time, what you should do, apart from seeing at which question you are going to attempt first, which question you are not going to, you are going to leave in choice, that question you are identifying. After that, what you need to do is you need to allocate the total time between the MCQ portion as well as the descriptive portion. As Swati told you that in MCQ portion, you need not give any reasoning for the correct answer. So there you can save some time. So it's better to allocate comparatively lesser time for the MCQ portion and try to save some time for the descriptive portion while distributing the whole time in the MCQ and descriptive portion. And then allocate some estimated time for each descriptive question also. So there should be, depending on the difficulty level of each question and how much you know the provisions. So there will be some question where subparts are not known to you. You have to think you have to spend some time on thinking that what you are actually going to answer in that particular question. So whatever you feel as per the awareness of the provisions, as per the difficulty level of the questions, you need to allocate an estimated time to each question. And up after that, some time should be left for the revision also. 10 to 15 minutes you should leave for the revision purpose, so that after doing the entire paper, you have to see some subpart you might not have left, or you feel you can add to some question, some answer you can, some calculation mistake can also be there. So try to leave 10 to 15 minutes. Generally, it so happens that we lag behind and we end up spending that revision time also in doing the questions. But at least while planning, you should leave some time for the revision purpose. Now, after that, when you get the case scenario based MCQs, so you know that in MCQs we have some case scenarios based MCQs, and one or two questions will be individual scenario based questions also. So in case scenario based MCQs, what will be there? There will be a big scenario, and based on that, some questions will be asked. So give a reading, meticulous reading to the entire case scenario, and as you go through the, after that you go through the MCQs which are following that particular scenario. Now, when you are going through the MCQs, try to find out the provisions which will be attracted or which will be invoked by solving that particular question, as well as the relevant information in the case scenario which you have to utilize for answering that particular MCQ. So when you are reading the case scenario, you might not be able to identify that yes, this provision will be, this particular information will be useful while answering the MCQ. But when you go through the MCQs after the case scenario, then you have to mark that which information you are going to utilize for answering that particular MCQ and which provisions of law you are going to use for answering that question. Thereafter, based on your understanding, based on your assessment, you should mark the correct answer. And since no reasoning is required, this will take lesser time for you to answer that particular portion.
One thing I would like to add,
Yes.
in case scenario, when, as ma'am told you, that when you read the questions, you have to keep in mind at which provision is gets attracted in this particular question, in this particular multiple choice questions. So when you again look back to the case scenario, you just mark the relevant information.
That would be helpful.
What you can do is, like, there are 5 questions. When you again go through the facts of the case scenario, you can mark that yes, this portion, this content may be relevant for answering the question number 1. And one important point to note here is that it is not important key particular information which is relevant for answering a particular multiple choice question is given at one place only. It might happen, yes, the information can be scattered. Then you have to calculate the, like, input tax available input tax credit for the particular month. It is not important that wherever information of 2 or 3 items is given, that is only relevant for you. It might happen that after 2 3 paragraphs one more information is given, which which you need to club while answering the said question. So keep this in mind, that you have to read the case scenario in an integrated manner. It's not that each and every question will be based on a particular paragraph. If it is based on para 2, answer 2 will be based on para 2. It might happen it requires the information of para 2 as well as of para 4. So please read the integrated case scenario, considering it a complete facts, like, all together. It's not, don't read it in a segregated manner. And you can mark it. You can mark when you go through again, when you second time go through the facts of the case scenario, you can mark the facts of the, you can mark in the facts that, like, this information is relevant for question 1 and for question 2. These 2 paragraphs are relevant. It will help you in solving the answer, arriving at the correct answer in lesser time.
Definitely, it will help you. In fact, for example, if they have asked you to find out the total value of supplies which are taxable under reverse charge,
Right.
or total value of outward supplies, so there will be 4 or 5 supplies which are given to you, out of which you have to identify that yes, these are the supplies which are taxable under reverse charge, or some inward supplies which are taxable under reverse charge can also be there. As per the question, you have to identify the supplies and gather them all at one place and then compute the final answer. So that can also be there. Yeah. So now we come to the descriptive question. So since you have done most of the planning for the descriptive portion in those 15 minutes, so as soon as you get the paper answer sheet, what you should do is you should immediately start writing the answer. You should do the question which you know the best, first of all, and then it should be in the decreasing order as per your understanding. So first of all, you have to complete whatever questions you know for sure. And then the subparts, it is possible that there would be some subparts which you are not aware of. So you can leave adequate space for those subparts, and then after completing the entire paper, you can come back to those questions and attempt those questions. Because we always suggest that you should, in the initial stage of attempting the paper, you should try to adhere to the pre-allocated time. That means whatever time you have allocated for a particular question, try to adhere to that time limit and don't exceed too much from the estimated time limit. Leave that question there and then you start and move to the other question. Because if we do one question in the best possible manner and it is at the cost of the other questions, then that is not going in our overall score is going to be low in that case. 6 average answers will fetch you more marks than 3 best answers. So you should not focus on giving every answer your best. You should focus on completing the paper. You should focus on attempting all the questions. Don't leave any question. As she told you that in MCQs, you do not have any negative marking. In fact, in descriptive also it is not there. But in MCQs, it is easier to mark the answer. In descriptive also, you should try to answer it in some or the other manner. You can answer on a logical basis. You can answer every question. So try to answer each and every question in the question paper. Maybe that 1 or 2 marks which you have got in that particular answer will ultimately lead to your passing the group or passing that particular paper. So don't leave any question in the examination. That is, your approach should be that way. And in fact, you should stay calm and cool in the examination. So whatever happens, if you saw the question paper and you feel that you do not know most of the answers, some blunder has actually happened with you, something grossly wrong has actually occurred, then also these 3 hours you have to be there at the examination hall. So give your best. Don't get panic at that particular moment. Those 3 hours you are there for that particular paper. They are dedicated for your examination. So please try to give your best, whatever you can do. We have seen cases where students felt in the first moment that they will not be able to pass this examination, and they got reasonably good score because they kept their cool and they attempted the paper, whatever they knew. So sometimes it so happens in the first instance we felt we see first one or two questions and we feel we do not know them, and we get an impression that this paper will not be able to pass, will not be able to score good, or will not be able to perform well. But at the end, we end up scoring quite reasonably good in that paper. So this should be your approach, that whatever happens, you have to stay calm and cool in that paper, and you have to give your best in the 3 hours time. So Swati will take you how you can score good in the examination. This was all about time management, but how you can improve your score in the examination by actually presenting your answers in a proper manner. She will take you through.
Yeah, everybody wants, to score good in the examination. This is the aim of each and every student basically. We read just for scoring marks, because when we score good we are able to tell our near and dear ones that how yes, we know this chapter. How you can convince the others? In general it happens that obviously your practical knowledge is important, but yes, your marks as the first, you can say, the report card, or the first impression which you give to the other, that yes, if you score good, that means your knowledge in that subject is very nice.
Actually,
Yes, and for scoring good marks, few are the key points which we would like to highlight. Like, answer the questions with due emphasis on the provisions of law. One thing I would like to share, when we go through the here at Board of Studies, we also go through the examiner comments, and we try to tell you the various. In this session, also we have planned to apprise you of the various commonly
that will be
committed
very
mistakes,
useful for you. So please
because
wait
we
for the
go
end
through,
and
yeah.
go through that session. So that will help you in avoiding those mistakes in the
Yeah,
question.
because when we see the examiner comments, these are based on the papers of all the students. So we come to know these are the points where the large number of students have committed mistake, or where they have performed well in the examination, or where even very few students have committed mistake, or where there is a lack of preparations and all. So at this point, where this is the important thing that we come to know, is generally, what we find is generally students give their answers, very vague answers. They are not based on the provisions of law. They are just vague and, writing without any legal backing. So it is important that you answer the question with due emphasis on the provisions of law. The length of your answer is not material. It is not important that if it is a 5 marks question, that you have to, write 2 paragraphs or half page you have to fill. What is important is that your answer should be based on the correct legal backing. Whatever is expected from you, whatever is the requirement of the question, I will say, please go through the requirement of the question very precisely. So whatever is asked from you, it might happen that when in the question paper, you might feel that the requirement of the question is more as compared to the commensuration of is as compared to the marks which it carries. But it also might happen that in some questions the requirement of the question is low as compared to the marks which it carries.
Overall, it is a balance that is
Overall, the
created.
paper is a balanced
Yeah.
one. So it doesn't matter if in one question you end up in taking 1 or 2 minutes extra. Then it might happen that in other remaining questions you will be able to you will be able to save your time basically.
And you should write in commensuration with the marks which a question carries. So if it is a 5 marks question, then you have to write higher number of points. But if same question comes for 2 marks, then you have to write lesser number of points. So if a question is there which has approximately 10 to 12 points in it, so it is not so that if it comes for 5 marks, you have to give all the points in that because you know them. No, don't show your all entire knowledge in a question. You have to actually write what is required. As she told you, Swati has rightly pointed out that you have to write what is expected from you. You have to write according to the requirement of the question. So if question requires you to answer for 2 marks, then you should give only 2 3 points in that particular question. See what is the actual weightage which is expected, what is the actual requirement of the question, and then answer accordingly.
Yeah, as I've told you that in some cases it might happen that similar question, if a question carries like 10 points, if it is asked for 2 marks, you answer any 2 points, and if it is for 5 marks, you mention any 5 points. But one point to note here is that these type of strategy will apply wherever there are independent points to answer. right?
Yeah, very
Wherever,
important point
yes,
you
wherever
highlighted.
wherever in a question, like the answer is such that it it is dependent upon like first point as well as the second point. The points which you need to mention are not the independent of each other. They are not they are not in they are basically their understanding is not related to each and every points which is given in the question. Then you can mention like any 2 points or any 5 points wherever like benefits of anything is asked or wherever conditions are asked. But in few cases what happens is that the answer you have to write an integrated answer, even if for two, even if it might happen that for 2 marks you have to write the 3 points, because all the points are interrelated. When like for few conditions wherever it is asked that you can like post supply discount, you can claim what are the conditions. So whatever is the condition, whether it is two or three or it is one, you have to mention all of them, right? Then being a taxation paper, there is a scope of multiple exemptions in the paper, and you have to give the clear exemptions in the paper wherever it is required. For example, I'm giving you examples so that you can better correlate yourself to the examination scenario. Like assumptions, sometimes it happens that in the examination few amounts are given. Now you are, it is not given explicitly whether the amounts given are inclusive of GST or it is exclusive of
It's
GST.
actually a very important point. Students get stuck at this point of time that how they should proceed in the question.
Right.
So now see how you have to answer that.
Yeah, either it will be specifically stated in the question that the amounts given are the inclusive or exclusive of GST. And wherever the gross amount received is given, generally this sum is meant to be the inclusive of GST. So wherever the amount is to be calculated, you have to like if the 18% is the rate of GST, you have to calculate like amount X is the amount, then X into 18 divided by 118. It will be the GST amount, and wherever you have to calculate the value, then X multiply 100 divided by 118. So these type of assumptions are generally required in the examination, inclusive, exclusive of GST, or if a particular item has already been given effect to or it has not been given effect to. Like if a particular price of a commodity is given, we don't know whether the subsidy is already has been given effect to in that price or it has not been given effect.
Information is not clear in the question. Some ambiguity is there in the question, and you're not able to proceed further without that information. So instead of getting stuck and getting stopped at that point, that what to do next, what you should do is you should take an assumption where both the assumptions are on equal footing. Then you take an either of the assumptions. You clearly state that assumption in your answer that I am taking this assumption. I am answering my question on this particular assumption, and then start writing the answer. This way, you will save your time and you will not be able, you will not get stuck at some point of time. You will be able to solve the question in that manner.
Like let me give you one more example. Like whenever a capital good is there, you can either claim the depreciation or you can claim the ITC. So if you are taking availing the ITC on the GST component, then you have to give the assumption that we are assuming that depreciation has not been claimed on the same. So these are the basic points which you might come across in the examination.
Either that information will be given in the question, and if it is not given, then this is a very important point. Students generally get stuck at this point of time that what they should take actually in the question.
And another advice, as ma'am told you, at first attend the question which you know the best, because it gives a positive impression to the examiner, not only to the examiner, but also it will motivate you as well, because you will feel that yes, my this percentage of paper has already been completed, and at least I will be able to score good marks in this paper. Now for the remaining paper, and sometimes it happens that whatever you feel difficult, that also when you come to that solving that question, the points start coming to your mind, because you have already started with a positive momentum and it really pays you. Then present your answers well. Your handwriting should be the legible one. Basically, whosoever is examining your answer sheets, you should be able to understand it. And you can do one thing: wherever the important key points are there, you can underline it. Basically, and you can write your answer in the bullet points or the key you can answer your answer in the points basically, so that the important information does not get missed. It doesn't happen that if a para is lost, sometimes examiner might get lost in reading a paragraph, that whether you know the correct provision or not. What you can do is like you can segregate your answer in different paragraphs, and you can also highlight the important points. One advice I would like to give you in this application-based scenarios is that wherever the facts are there and you are asked to give your opinion and whether the statement is valid or not based on the legal provision, in that case, one advice to you will be that please don't come to the conclusion in the first place. Please don't write yes, the statement is valid or it is invalid and then followed by a conclusion, because it might happen sometimes we know the correct provision, but what we know, due to examination pressure or due to, sometimes we feel that we have less time, sometimes we end up unknowingly in writing the wrong conclusion even though we know the correct provisions.
Because of the examination pressure, it can happen.
Yes. So we advise you to first of all you correlate the facts with the legal provision involved in the question. You mention those legal provision. You mention the first of all you mention the legal provision, then you apply the facts of the case with that legal provision, and you come to the conclusion in the end. One benefit which will be which will accrue to you while if you answer in this manner is that even if your conclusion gets wrong, you will not lose full marks. Similarly, if had it been that you have mentioned the conclusion in the first place, so it might happen if your conclusion is wrong, even though your legal backing is right, you have understood the provision, you are correctly applying the provision.
That happens sometimes.
It might happen that examiner does not read the complete answer and you will get 0.
He feels that you don't know the provision, you have
Yes.
concluded it wrongly. So this is a
Yes.
very important piece of advice which you have given.
Yes. So first of all, give the correct legal provision which is involved in the question. Then apply the facts of the case to the legal provision involved in the question, and at last give your conclusion. So so that there is even if the conclusion gets wrong, you will not lose the full marks. At least you will get the suffice mark. Benefit of suffice marks.
Some points I would also like to add here is that regarding this legible handwriting which Swati highlighted, that you should present your paper in a legible manner, readable manner, but what you should do is you should maintain pace also in the examination so that you don't leave any question. So that is also very important. As regards the answers in the descriptive portion, in fact, a student has also asked that one student has also asked that can we write the answers in our own language? Yes. Rupati has asked that yes, can we write the answers in our own language? Yes, you can write the answers in your own language. You need not reproduce the bookish language. In fact, when we started the session, I highlighted this, that you need to mention the correct provisions, whether it is in your own language, whether it is the reproduction of the exact provisions of law, that does not matter. But when we are writing in our own language, sometimes we need to take care, or we need to be very cautious that the exact meaning gets conveyed. If it is not conveyed, then there can be, you might lose the marks, because sometimes it so happens, many a times students come to us and they feel that they could have scored very high in this paper, but actually their score is very less. And the reason many a times is that they have answered the question in their own language, but while doing so, they have deviated from the actual meaning. Whatever meaning they are actually conveying has gone wrong. So that care has to be taken while writing in your own words. In fact, we always encourage the students to write the answers in their own words. If you see our suggested answers, if you see the mock test papers also, everywhere the reasoning answers have been reframed, or they have the language we have reframed, so that these students can get an idea that yes, they can write in their own words this provision and still they will score full. But only thing is that same meaning should get conveyed. We should not change the meaning, or we should not deviate from the actual meaning of the provision. Now, and apart from that, as I told you, you have to stay calm in the paper. So before the examination also, you need to take proper rest. You need to take proper sleep before the examination day. You should take a light diet before the examination day, so that you don't feel sleepy during the examination. Taking proper sleep, having a light food keeps you energetic during the examination, and you can perform better. You should go through the instructions of the admit card also. Sometimes it so happens that you have to start every question apart from a new page, or if it is written that you need to use blue color pen, black color pen, you don't have to use pencil, whatever is the instruction which is given in your admit card, that you should read very carefully, so that you don't lose marks on anything which was very much under your control, which did not require much preparation or much efforts. So those things you need to keep in mind. Read your instructions in admit card instructions very carefully. There is an instruction, I think, which is mentioned that you need to tick the questions which you have attempted out of the optional questions. So that also you should do properly and read all the instructions before the examination.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add, just when the frequently asked mail came to my mind. Generally at IDT Inter, we get the mails from students.
This is the ID which we have for asking the queries. So you can ask your queries also at idt-inter at
Yes,
ICAI.in.
generally, what happens is that students write, ma'am, whatever the sheet which is given to us for section A, we ended up in writing the answers of section B. So will we get marks? We know the paper, but due to examination
Wrongly, they have
pressure,
mentioned section A in section B. They have attempted entire section A in section B answer sheet, or vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is very important. So, whatever like section A or section B, please maintain the different sheets for it, because the examiners for both the papers are in general, they will be different, because section A is income tax and section B is goods and services tax. Don't mingle up your answers in a particular answer sheet. That is very important. In section A income tax, if the answer sheet you are referring to, then don't ended up in writing the answers of section B goods and services tax in section A. And that was
Yeah, but in fact, sometimes students get panicked because of that. So don't get panicked. Generally, examination department takes care of such things. But yes, in the first place, we ourselves should be very cautious and alert that we don't answer the wrong section in a particular sheet which has been allocated for section A or section B, whichever is the case.
Roopwati has asked, ma'am, can we write in own language or a book or in bookish language?
That has been answered.
Okay.
Now she has asked one more question: how to score more in audit, FM, SM?
See, for audit, I think one webinar will take place at 4 p.m. today itself. So be there. You can take a short break.
Especially
Yes.
focused on scoring good in
Yes,
audit paper.
yes,
That is also there. In fact, success for CA exam sessions will also be there for FM, strategic management, audit. They are going to follow. So tomorrow you are going to have for this, not just SM and FM will be on the last day. And then day after tomorrow, audit session will also be there for success at CA exams. You can watch that. Today's webinar will also be helpful for you. You can watch that. So Swati will take you how you can answer the non-computational questions. Because for computational questions, now you are very clear that you have to treat each and every item. You have to give the reasoning for all the items which are, or all the expenses, receipts, whatever are the given in the question, amounts which are given in the question. You have to give the specific reasoning explanatory notes for those questions, and then you have to arrive at the correct answer. As regards the non-computational application-based questions, what you have to keep in mind, Swati will apprise you now.
Yeah, that I think most of the points we have already covered, that you have to recall the legal provisions involved in the situation which is given in the question. Then, as I told you, that you have to correlate and apply the same in the provided issue. Then at the end, you have to write the conclusion with the correct answer. And as ma'am has told you many times, that length of the answer should be in commensuration with the marks allotted. Do not write unnecessary lengthy answers, because it will not help you in fetching more marks. If a question carries 5 marks, then at the most you can get 5 marks only. So don't end up in writing the unnecessary lengthy answers. Write to the point, write correct answer to the point. Answer in properly framed language. You can write, yes, you can write in your own words. Legal, as it is the language of the BEAR Act, is not expected from student. But what is expected is that you, whatever is the correct meaning, whatever is the correct meaning of that provision, that should be clearly exhibited in your answer sheet. You can write in your own words, but the legal meaning should not hamper out of it. Then avoid giving generalized answer without capturing the extent provisions. Same thing. So the points to be borne in mind while answering comprehension and knowledge-based question. Generally, I think one question is a C&K based question. So in that question, obviously is easy to attempt. because there is no, you don't need not apply the you need not apply the law to the facts of the question. That is a straightforward question. And what you have to do is that you have to highlight the main point with brief description, such as bullet points with headings, and you can give the example if required in the question, and then you have to break the answer in brief points or paragraphs. Then now coming to the most important area of this lecture, which was the commonly committed mistakes. So let's understand the few points which are very important, like which students generally commit mistake, and these points are generally asked in the examination. It is, as Shifali ma'am told you, that it is essential to thoroughly revise the fundamental aspects of GST law during your revision process. It's not that you have to, you can first of all go to the procedural law, then followed by the substantive law. You have to proceed in a sequential manner. First of all, the substantive provisions, and then go to the procedural aspects, because fundamental aspects, key aspects are the backbone of GST. First of all, you need to understand what is supply, then charge of GST, and exemptions from GST, place of supply, time, value, availability of ITC. Then only you can move to the procedural aspects like registration, tax invoice, accounts and records, payment, how the payment is to be made, and the return filing. So coming to the chapter supply, concept of supply, you should revisit the concept of supply outlined in section 7 of the CGST 2017. Section 7 is the, the key section which covers the scope of supply, along with schedule 1, 2 and 3 of the CGST 2017. As you know that under schedule 1 of the CGST 2017, transactions between related or distinct persons are considered as supply under GST law, even if they are made without consideration. So Schedule 1 talks about the items, activities which are to be treated as supply, even if they are made without consideration. So, transactions between related or distinct persons. Now, what is important is that who are the related persons? One of the key aspects is that members of the same family are considered as related persons, and resultantly it is important to understand the definition of family. Now, what is the definition of family? Family means the spouse and the children of the person, and the parents, grandparents, grandparents, brothers and sisters of the family, if they are wholly or mainly dependent on the said person. Please note here that the condition wholly or mainly dependent on the said person is applicable only in the case of parents, grandparents, brother and sister of the person. So spouse and children will be included in the definition of family even if they are not dependent upon the said person. For children, the condition of dependency does not exist. It is there only in case of parents, grandparents, brother and sister of the person.
Yeah, this is a very important point which she has discussed. This shows that how meticulously we have to go through each and every provision and each and every definition. Family's definition makes a whole lot of difference, whether the person should be wholly dependent on the taxpayer, or he's not required to be wholly or mainly dependent. Okay. Now we come to the next point. Yeah. Now, when you are revising the taxable services under reverse charge, so that is there in your syllabus purview. Otherwise, goods under which are taxable under reverse charge are not within the purview of your syllabus. So, reverse charge services, you have to pay special attention to who is the service provider and who is service receiver. In fact, in the last session, we had discussed how you can memorize the entire reverse charge mechanism services. Whenever you are doing any question, question which requires the computation of GST, net GST payable, or where you have to compute the at least the gross GST or the gross amount of GST payable, you have to keep in mind whether the tax has to be paid on that particular service under reverse charge or under forward charge. So reverse charge services, the entire list should be thorough with you. You should know who should be service receiver and should be service provider in order to attract the reverse or to invoke the reverse charge provisions. So that particular list you have to keep in mind while attempting every question. In fact, exemptions also you need to take care of when you are finding out the GST, you are computing the net GST liability. Then you have to write the exemption, you have to see the exemptions also, because that makes difference. You have to see if for each entry when you are doing the net GST computation, then you have to see the particular receipt or particular supply which is being provided, whether it is a taxable supply or it is an exempt supply. Then if it is a taxable supply, whether these services are taxable under reverse charge mechanism, because that makes a difference. That makes those services exempt actually for the purpose of the input tax credit. So that is what we have to take into consideration for every item. And in fact, for the composition scheme, now when you are attempting any question related to composition scheme and you are determining what is the aggregate turnover for determining the eligibility for the composition scheme. So remind it, we are determining aggregate turnover for determining the eligibility for the composition scheme. Then in that case, and it is a new taxpayer, suppose it has commenced the business in this year, then we have to take his turnover from up to the threshold limit also. So if that person has taken registration within this year only, then you have to take the his turnover right from first rupee 1 till his actual turnover. Everything has to be taken into consideration. For example, a person commenced business in April and his turnover exceeded rupees, he's a service provider as well as a provider of goods, and his turnover exceeded rupees 20 lakhs in May. Then his turn, when we are determining his eligibility for the scheme, then we have to see the entire full year's turnover, and this 20 lakhs will also be taken into consideration. We have to determine the eligibility for the next year. Now in next year, suppose we have to take into consideration, we have to determine his taxable, his tax under composition scheme. And that person, if some person is taking registration in that year only, then the turnover up to registration limit is not to be included in the turnover of the state on which the tax payable under composition scheme is to be computed. So for computing the eligibility, we have to take the entire turnover from the up to the threshold limit also. But when we are computing the tax payable under composition scheme, then the turnover up to the threshold limit of registration, that has to be excluded while computing the tax payable under composition scheme. Now, next is exemptions. You should know that what are the specific exemptions, what for whether you are, who is providing those services and who is receiving those services, because that is very important for determining the exemption with regard to a particular service. Sometimes the exemption is related to the service provider or service receiver, and in that case, we should be very specifically knowing that. Now comes to the time of supply. Now, in case of time of supply, if the reverse, we have to determine the date of payment. So in case of the forward time of supply for services, we are determining time of supply for the forward charge services, then the date of payment will be the date of payment in the date of entry in the books of accounts of the supplier. I'm talking about forward charge. So forward charge date of entry in the books of accounts of the supplier has to be taken. So maybe in the question, the date of entry in the books of accounts of recipient is also given to you. Then you have to be very cautious about taking which date you have to take.
That is to make you confused, basically.
Yeah, that would be given. The date of entry in the books of recipient will be given only to confuse you. You have to take for supplier. Here, what we have mentioned is for the reverse charge. So in case of forward charge, the date of entry in the books of accounts of supplier or date of credit in the bank account of the supplier has to be taken, earlier of these two dates. When we are determining date of payment in case of the reverse charge, then date of entry in the books of accounts of recipient or date of debit of bank account of the recipient has to be taken. So in case of reverse charge, everything has to be from the recipient side because recipient has to deposit the tax. In case of forward charge, while determining date of payment, you have to take the dates from the supplier's point of view. This is something which student has to take into mind because otherwise this will you might make mistake in this question during the examination. Okay, now, so quickly we'll go to other points also. While determining the value of supply, the TCS, tax collected at source under the Income Tax Act. Now, it is not a tax per se. It is an interim levy which is being levied. So it will not be includable in the value. This is a general mistake the students commit if such a point comes in the examination. So this you should keep in mind. As regards subsidies, Swati has already discussed in the initial portion of this session that you need to take into mind that what are the conditions for taking subsidy and the blanket subsidy, whether it will be includable in the value or not. So blanket subsidy is not includable in the value. Then we have the 86B provision. So while doing that net GST payable question, you need to take into consideration the provisions of section rule 86B, that whether they are applicable or not. If value of taxable supply is more than 50 lakhs, then the provisions of rule 86B will apply, and in that case, the ITC can be utilized only up to 99% of the total output tax liability. Whatever output tax liability is given to you, you have to take 99% of that. Here, one mistake which students commit is they take 99% of the ITC available, and that is not the case. You have to take 99% of your output tax liability because that is what provision says. Provision does not say that whatever ITC is available, you can utilize only up to 99%. No. There could be a case that you have an output tax liability of 100 rupees and the input tax credit which is available is 101 rupee. So in that case, you do not have to do 101, 99% of 101. You have to do 99% of 100 rupees. That is your output tax liability. And you have to pay 1% of the tax, 1% of the output tax liability in cash. That is 1 rupee has to be paid in cash and 99 rupees has to be paid in, can be paid utilizing ITC. So these are some of the generally commonly committed mistakes. In fact, one more is there that when you have the inward supplies which are taxable under reverse charge, then for paying that reverse charge liability, you cannot utilize ITC because ITC can be utilized for payment of output tax, whereas the reverse charge liability on inward supplies is not an output tax. So therefore, that cannot be utilized. ITC cannot be utilized for paying the reverse charge supplies which are inward supplies which are taxable under reverse charge. Okay. So I think these are some of the commonly committed errors which students will be benefited. And in fact, we had thought we'll take some questions also. But I think time.
Yes, because you have one more session today. I think the webinar on audit will also there at 4 p.m.
So we'll be.
So we will just now wind up the session.
Take your leave. End our session here only. So thank you for the patient listening, students. And in fact, you have any query regarding the examination, any question, you can write to us at idt-inter@icai.in. Thank you for the patient listening and all the best for your examination.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. हो गया होगा